Alola doesn't have a champion yet, but they say that once the spot is filled, that person's dreams can come true. And I only have one dream, and that's to bring the holiday season to the region. My name is Elvin the Elf, and with my team of Rudy the Deerling, Yagami the Volbeat, and Stump the Santa-mandated Snover, I'm gonna make my dream come true, at all costs. I immediately run into some opposition after taking my first steps into the region. A guy by the name of Hop is particularly opposed to Christmas cheer. On the surface, that's fine, any holiday will do, but he's against any holiday and any joy. So much so that we have 2 back-to-back battles, but I've got Rudy. He was made fun of for being different and wasn't allowed to play any Deerling games back at the factory. It was their loss, because Rudy was blessed with Serene Grace and Headbutt. This nasty flinching combo carries us through the first fights against Hop, as well as a Litten with a Schnasty Ember. Not to mention the battle against the first trial captain Ilima, whose Smeargle could be quite a handful for the average trainer. This brings us to the first totem fight of many, and this time it's the adaptability Gumshoos. Stump leads this time around and attempts to gain some speed control by unleashing Icy Wind. It does okay damage, but the speed drop is countered immediately by Scary Face. After a Yungoos is called, both opposing Pokemon hit Stump with a Tackle, and the attack from the Totem just so happens to be a crit. Alright, all of my holiday Pokemon are blessed with Natural Gift, in order to spread holiday cheer. Thankfully, Leppa berries grow at this part of the region, so that means we could hit Gumshoos with a Fighting-type Natural Gift. The Hail Chip from Snow Warning is adding up, so we stay in, risking another crit, to fish for our own with Razor Leaf. Yagami tags in to take 2 tackles, with yet another one from the Totem critting. Luckily for us, Yagami is quick and can finish off the Pokemon that's for sure based on a detective for sure. And his little sister is quick to follow. Super lucky that the Brick Break TM was right outside the arena. This challenge is in the bag. Hop stands up to my squad once again, but the fact of the matter is, Rudy and Stump are way too passionate, and Hop didn't stand a chance. Kahuna Hala is the first real roadblock. His fighting-type Pokemon, along with his Z-move, are deadly for my team. Yagami is the only one who isn't weak to their attacks. Because of this, I lead with Stump. I wanted to preserve Yagami, and figured that our Psychic-type Natural Gift off of Citrus Berry would be good enough for the Machop. Regrettably, it only does half. And the following Icy Wind only boosts their revenge for the easy Oko. Technically, we could recover from this, but without our special Christmas tree, there was no point. I reset and try again on attempt 2. The Gumshoos fight ends up being even easier than last time, proving that I could get through it regardless of RNG. However, against Hala, that's the exact thing that we'll be relying on. Rudy is the lead now, as I'd still like to preserve Yagami. This time, we simply want to spam Headbutt in hopes of a flinch. And what do you know? Rudy lands it every single time. The Machop doesn't get to use a single move, and Crabrawler switches in. This is where I switch to Yagami, since all-out pummeling is all but guaranteed to be landing next. Yagami takes the full force of the move head-on, and he eats it like a champ. We proceed to confuse them and use another rendition of Natural Gift Psychic, but after a couple of leers, I had no choice but to switch. And since we lived the pursuit, the inevitable KO is at the hooves of Rudy and his breakneck blitz. Makihita is quick to follow after also getting flinched, and that's one entire island down. Of course, on Akala Island, we run into our fair share of opposition, including this couple from France. Fortunately, I'm only met with 2 Psychic-type Pokemon, and Yagami answers them perfectly with his new tutor move Signal Beam. The move tutors on each island are amazing additions, especially for someone like me who already has a lot of beach points. Hop once again stands in our way, but his normal type Z move is pretty much his only new strategy. The fight concludes yet again, and I find myself wondering, what's his deal? Gladion joins forces with Hop, and his type null is shockingly scary this early in the game. But it's one of the few Pokemon that aren't min-maxed, so Rudy shines once again and takes them out. So, unfortunately, we are on Akala Island. It may not look like it at first glance, but this is the home of the highest difficulty spike in all of Pokemon. The BDSP Elite Four doesn't hold a candle to this place. The first totem Pokemon here is Araquanid, and while it's not quite the poster child of this island's terrors, it is a problem. Leech Life hits Rudy and Stump for super effective, while also healing back any and all damage taken. Bubble is boosted not only by the rain, but also Araquanid's water bubble ability. And if I'm able to get through either of those on this min-maxed totem, I'll still have to either deal with its buddy Masquerain or Dewpider. I do have one odd option at my disposal. Thanks to the move tutor, Rudy oddly gets access to Bounce. And we're able to use that Bounce and power it up with the Flyinium Z that I found at 10 Carat Hill to hit the boss Pokemon with a supersonic Sky Strike. It does about 80%, so in return, we're hit with a Leech Life that restores half the damage, and they summon the Intimidating Assistant. Yeah, it shouldn't come to anyone's surprise that we don't come back from this. Yagami has Charge Beam from a TM I found at this location, but with no Masquerain kill, no boost, and the Araquanid holding the electric-reducing Rokan Berry, attempt 2 is over. Round 3 against Hala proved to be a larger issue than before. I figured that expecting a flinch from Headbutt every single time would be greedy, but I thought they might set up Focus Energy first, as that's what they did in attempt 1. However, our second Headbutt doesn't flinch, and they just kill Rudy with a Revenge. Attempt 4, I kinda mess up because I lead with Stump. That's all you need to know. On attempt 5, we don't even get one flinch, and they take out Rudy with Revenge on turn 1. Attempt 6 is a little more lucky, but they still get the Revenge after healing. And for attempt 7, I decided to switch it up and see if I could one-shot the Machop with Breakneck Blitz. I in fact cannot. On attempt 8, I tried again to make sure it wasn't a damage roll. It wasn't, but Machop just uses Karate Chop this time, and Rudy lives. After Hala heals, we commit with Headbutts and Machop goes down. Once again, Yagami takes the all-out pummeling because he's very good at that apparently, and does enough damage before Stump comes in to swipe the kill with Hail. Makihita then plays super passively, so we finally get off the first island again. I guess we were luckier than I realized before. Back to the water trial, instead of leading with the Z move, I decided to just use Bounce. This gets the Dewpider to be called, which is way better, and we might get the Para into full Para on the big bug. This would mean that the Z move could pick up the kill, but we flip the wrong coin and quickly lose attempt 8. No major changes in my strategy against Hala, but it isn't until attempt 14 that I get past him again. Unfortunately, using RNG is the only way I could get a win, but I've been optimizing this to minimize how much RNG we actually use. Once I finally get back to the Araquanid again, I decide, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Or rather, what's the least broke? Rudy and I opt to go for our Serene Grace Headbutt Flinch strategy again, and they get flinched turn 1. With that little damage, Dewpider is still the only one that's called. After a second Headbutt gets a follow-up flinch, nothing stops the Z move from finishing them off. Yeah, take that! Dewpider is then taken care of by Yagami, and the run is alive. Who would have guessed? Unfortunately, we have no time to relax. Alola Marowak is gatekeeping the continuation of our journey, and that trial makes the water trial look easy. Yagami is the only saving grace we have, if you can call it that. By this level, he learns Tail Glow, which raises his special attack by 3 stages. The plan is to use that while Marowak goes for a Detect, as he often does, and then outspeed and land the Water-type Z move off of the Water Pulse that we got from the move tutor. Sadly, this fight relies entirely on the Totem Pokemon playing passively on turn 1. So, when the time finally comes, we come face to face with the monstrous boss. Tail Glow activates first, meaning they didn't go for Detect. Flame Wheel does in fact fire off, and Yagami lives? What? Well, the partner Salazzle is called immediately, so even though Yagami lived on 1 and can Hydro Vortex the Marowak, Salazzle just picks up the kill with Flame Burst. From there, I couldn't even continue the run if I wanted to. My remaining Holiday Cheer is engulfed in flames, with only Rudy barely surviving. Attempt 14 is functionally over. We're able to return on the very next attempt surprisingly, and on turn 1, they go for Flame Wheel again. Maybe they always go for the kill if they see it? On attempt 16, I try setting up Rain Dance instead, but the fire attacks aren't weakened enough, and the Rain boost still somehow doesn't get the Marowak to perish. Unlike this attempt. Tail Glow only works if they Detect, but they never Detect. Rain isn't strong enough. My only bet at this point is to get the confusion with Water Pulse and have them hurt themselves in confusion. What a world. Attempts 19, 20, 21, and 22 all end in a blink of an eye. Then, on attempt 23, the unthinkable happens. They detect. I'm such a fool. Well, because we were going for the water pulse, it was all for naught, and we lose. By attempt 24, I'm at my wit's end, and try to get the confusion one last time. I'm not falling for that detect bait. We fire it off, and with no confusion, but instead a crit from Flame Wheel, attempt 24 ends. I don't know what to do. I've hit a wall. Other than insane RNG luck, there's no way out of this. But to my surprise, on the 25th attempt of the Nuzlocke, a savior is born. Out of nowhere, Yeshua the Arceus appears at my box. An immaculate conception, if you would. We just might be able to do this now. It turns out that the Totem Marowak fears no Pokegod and still refrains from detecting turn 1. Our cosmic power then would have helped us take the Brick Break better if it weren't for the crit. You're kidding. After the Salazzle is called, Yeshua, who becomes the same type as the Z Crystal it's holding, uses Hydro Vortex. But they used Detect, so it did almost nothing. 2 regular Water Pulses later finally puts victory in my future. We prioritize taking out the Salazzle due to Venoshock, but the poison damage forces us to switch. But because they never go for Flame Wheel on my water type, Yagami is 100% safe to switch in on the Hex and outspeed and take the kill with Water Pulse. Marowak is down and the run is alive. From there, nothing could stand in the way of our team. Lurantis is taken care of by Yagami, and Yeshua does the rest. Kahuna Olivia? Defeated. How's rematch? Easy. Togedemaru? Earth-powered. Guzma? Charge-beamed. Mimikyu might have been a Spark Note, but our Corkscrew Crash grits and negates that chance. Along the way, Rudy and Stump get to evolve, and while they do help here and there, don't get me wrong, they just haven't had many good matchups presented to them. By the time we finish up our trek of Ula Ula Island, Rudy feels like he should be doing more. He used to be the team's ace after all. He tries his hooves at Nanu's Grand Trial, and is able to deal with the Sableye and Krokorok thanks to Hornleech, as well as take the Persian's Black Hole Eclipse head on, which is honestly pretty impressive. But at the end of the day, Yagami had to step in and finish off the Persian. Aether Paradise is where the stakes start to rise again. Lucamine's AI can, I guess, appear to be random. The RNG will likely play an even greater role than before, so who else should lead besides Rudy? We can never take out the Clefable in one hit, so we go for the headbutt hoping for a flinch. It doesn't come to be, so they get to lower our attack with Charm. This is unfortunate because, even though we'll get to take them out a couple turns later, Rudy ends up way less healthy than we were hoping. Lopunny enters the field next and threatens with a wide array of punches and secondary effects. Yeshua, who is holding the Ghost EMZ, has no choice but to tag in early to deal with her. We switch in on the immune Dizzy Punch, and end up on the receiving end of every other elemental punch. But since none of them proc a secondary effect, Lopunny quickly perishes. Lilligant is next, but with only Petal Dance and Teeter Dance, Stump perfectly counters her and defeats them with an Icy Wind, Icy Shard combo. Beware's Drain Punch is deadly, but once again, Yeshua could switch in for free. Our first Psychic brings him to the yellow, while their Zen Headbutt hurts. Another Psychic finishes him off, and with only Milotic remaining, Stump is completely safe to return and spam a few Giga Drains to get the win. From there, our conquest brings us to Ula Ula Island, and a part of the journey where there are way too many trainers. Almost every single one of these guys has the potential to end the run, even now. After sneaking by as many as humanly possible, we make it to the Dragon Trial just barely within the level cap. This time Yeshua's repping the Psyche Z, and hits the Totem Komoho with a super effective Shattered Psyche. Even with their Omni Boost, we almost take them out right away. Dragonclaw doesn't do too much in return, and they just call Scizor. Next turn we finish them off with a regular Psychic, and even though the Scizor sets up a light screen, it's nowhere near enough to defend from the Flamethrower that we got as a TM right outside the den. I'm noticing that a lot in this game. Now, we won't be able to deal with the Necrozma the same way that we normally do. The Duskmane form is easily dealt with by Earth Power spam, But the Ultra Space fight is a whole nother beast. Without the Endeavor Sucker Punch strat that I used before, I'm left with only one option: Yagami. Just as Rudy was blessed with Serene Grace, Yagami was graced with Prankster. This lets him land Toxic immediately on turn 1. The Prankster doesn't really matter though, because we get to live the Power Gem on 1 thanks to the 1 Focus Sash that we get access to. The next turn is spent protecting in order to stall out the Toxic damage. And then I switch into the Steel-type Yeshua, who takes way more from the Power Gem than I was expecting. Another turn of Protect means another turn of Toxic, but we can't protect any longer. The time has come for the 2 legendaries to clash, and Necrozma decides to unleash its Photon Geyser. Yeshua is hit head-on and lives in the yellow. Then we retaliate in a way that only Arceus can, firing off a punishment that is boosted by all of Necrozma's stat boosts. And it still doesn't kill. Luckily, Yagami's Toxic finishes the job and frees us from Ultra Space. Is it just me, or was Punishment's animation pretty underwhelming? After that, we only have a couple more challenges remaining before the Elite Four, and Mina's trial, which tasks us with fighting most of the previous trial captains, goes by rather smoothly, all culminating with the Totem Ribombee, but you'll never guess how it goes down. All that's left is the ground trial against Kahuna Hapu, and even though the team has been working together really well, Rudy still feels off. Again, he used to be the ace, and now only occasionally tags in. He wants to finish off this island trial strong. This is his destiny too. Rudy leads the fight as Hapu leads with Golur. An Iron Fist boosted Hammer Arm always kills Rudy in one blow, but knowing that they lean towards the setting up of Stealth Rocks, we just use Horn Leech. Our prediction comes true, and Rudy takes them down a turn later. Next is Flygon, and he outspeeds us to land a nasty Dragon Breath. Luckily, they don't get the paralysis, and we're able to heal most of it up with another Horn Leech. Their next Dragon Breath, Stinky by the way, does get the para, but Rudy powers through to take them out with another attack. In comes Mudsdale, and this thing is the reason we saved our Z-move. If we don't take out this steed in one attack, their Z-move could be fatal. And at the worst possible time, the paralysis catches up to Rudy. But they only use Payback! The following turn, Rudy locks in and unleashes his Bloom Doom. Mudsdale stood 0 chance and gets obliterated. But it's not over yet. Gastrodon would easily lose to one last Horn Leech, but once again, Rudy gets fully parried. They use Muddy Water and Rudy actually lives on 1! I had no idea it'd be this close, but I can't disrespect Rudy's ambition now, and decide to stay in for the attack. And in the 11th hour, he fights through and heals almost all of the damage back with one last Horn Leech. Way to go, buddy. I knew you had it in ya. One final battle against Gladion brings the team and I to the top of Mount Lanakila. After all of our trials and tribulations, on the 25th attempt, we finally made it. We're only a couple battles away from bringing Christmas, and also the other holidays too, to the region. They're equally valid, I'm just not knowledgeable enough to reference them any more than I am. Now let's see if my bug, tree, and 2 horses have what it takes to see this through to the end. Of the Elite Four, Olivia gives me the most technical issues. Steel-type Yeshua gets fully parried and struck by Gigalith's Bulldoze. To keep them safe, Rudy tags in to do the job. Once Gigalith eventually goes down, Yeshua can wreak havoc. Olivia's team is otherwise dealt with and finished off by Corkscrew Crash. Boleyn's team is hard countered by Yeshua's Ground type and Continental Crush. I forgot to use the Z-move for Kahili's Birds, but they're taken out just as easily with Thunderbolt. And finally, Acerola's ghosts are countered by our own ghost, Yeshua. What an insane underdog storyline this is. Before long, every single member of the Elite Four is defeated. We eagerly make our way to the highest point of the region. Every single Alolan island is in view, and every single household that we see will get to experience holiday joy, and maybe even PTO. But right before our position is final, we're approached by one final challenger. Hop. He had been preparing for this moment from the very beginning, and wants to rip away our dream right when it's within our reach. But we're not gonna let him become champion. This responsibility is for us, and the people of Alola will get the chance to be festive if it's the last thing we do. The final battle begins with Yagami versus Raichu. They hit us hard with a Psychic that activates our berry, guaranteeing that we could live a second one. Bug Buzz then hits them even harder, bringing them into the red. They get a special defense drop, so instead of healing, Hao switches into Flareon, who tanks the hit. I take this chance to switch to Yeshua, who's holding the Firium Z, and can eat their Flare Blitz very well. We then proceed to one-shot them with an Earth Power. Hao's Tauros follows quickly after thanks to a crit, but I'm sure we would have lived their Earthquakes anyways. Unsurprisingly, Crabominable shares the same fate, which brings out Primarina. In a desperate attempt for victory, Hao unleashes their Water-type Z-move, Hydro Vortex. But unlucky for them, Rudy has tagged in for Yeshua. He lives the resisted hit and retaliates with his strongest Bloom Doom yet. Primarina goes down, and Hao is running out of options. Raichu attempts to come back in and pick off a kill, so I switch into Stump. It turns out Hao was chump checking me, and actually just uses a full restore. We stay in to use Giga Drain, which might have been a misplay as they go for Focus Blast. It misses, but we would have lived anyways. Giga Drain doesn't even do half, so after we decide to stay in and eat the next Focus Blast after all, we eat our berry and take them out with Blizzard. Hao's final Pokemon is Noivern, and here's where I go back and forth in my mind between Blizzard and Ice Shard. Blizzard always kills, while Ice Shard is a 2-hit, but it has priority. I eventually opt for Blizzard, which turns out to be a misplay. Either way, Stump would be getting hit by an attack, but because we went for the slower Blizzard, Noivern's Air Slash that just barely doesn't kill flinches us. This is where we would have just used our second Ice Shard and won the match. But we are neither down nor out. Yeshua switches in one last time, as the weather becomes just as clear as our victory. For one final time, we use a TM that we picked up right before we entered the arena, and fire off Ice Beam. This undoubtedly takes them out, as we not only defeat Hao, but have brought the holidays to Alola. I know this is technically my first deathless run on the channel, like I've been hyping up, but I don't think I'm gonna count it. I thought I'd do something more story-based and silly for the holiday season, but if you guys would like a more typical winter Nuzlocke, I did do an ice-only run of Oris a few weeks ago. I've also got a growing catalog of other Nuzlocke videos that I've built over this year that I recommend checking out too. To everyone who's been supporting me over this last year, thank you all very much. It really means a lot. I'm hoping that next year I can keep doing what I'm doing here and continue making all kinds of videos like these. If you like what I do, then please consider supporting me by liking, commenting, and subscribing if you haven't already. It helps me out a whole lot, and I'd really appreciate it. I've got links in the description if you'd like to follow me on Twitch, where I livestream some of these runs, as well as Twitter, and a link to the Discord. I still don't really know what I'm doing there, but we'll figure it out. Anyways, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you all so much for watching, especially if you've made it to the end. I'll see you guys next year, and have a good one.